Welcome to Free Your Mind Reviews. This is Chris Johnson with a review of Brahms' The Boy 2. So, of course, The Boy 2 is the sequel to the 2016 horror film The Boy, which I actually did not see until 2 days ago. Because I wasn't interested in any more possessed doll movies. I had enough of that with Chucky and Annabelle. But, now I'm in my Free Your Mind Reviews days. And there's a sequel, so let me go watch the first one before I try to judge a sequel, because I always found that to be particularly stupid. So, I watched The Boy, found it to be a kind of dull, really slow-paced, not all that interesting, until its third act revelation. And even with that revelation, I thought it was still a stupid-ass movie, because the characters were dumb. I'm sorry. If I get hired for a job to take care of a child and I find out that child is a doll, I'm out. Yeah, this job's ridiculous. I quit. Go find another job, and so you can stay away from your abusive boyfriend, which was an element, or husband, excuse me, which was an element of the movie that did not work for me, because it was played as just a little cliche plot instead of something actually serious, and it felt like it was just put there so that the movie can have an attempt at a body count. But I will be the first to admit to the thing that did separate it and kept it from being a terrible movie or maybe even a bad movie was the spoilers. Just a heads up, there's gonna be just spoilers in general for both movies in this one. But the revelation that it was not a possessed doll, but a man was living in the walls. Yeah, that idea is creepy. The idea that you're living in a house, somebody's living in that house in the walls, and you don't know it, you can't see it, and that's the whole idea of that is creepy. I don't think the movie itself executed it well enough. Then when I found out it was from the director of The Devil Inside, I see why. But I think under the hands of a better filmmaker, The Boy probably could have been a great horror movie instead of just, alright, whatever. But it makes money, so here we are years later with The Boy 2 with Katie Holmes. And, I'm thinking, right after the first one went off, and of course I'd already seen trailers for The Boy 2, and I'm just thinking, how do you make a sequel to this movie? And thinking about the trailers, it looks like this movie don't match as a sequel to that movie I just watched. Yeah, boy, is that fucking true. So Brahms' The Boy 2 is about a family who ends up moving to the guest house that's right near the main house from the first film because of, in the movie's words, senseless random act of robbery. Like, I can, yeah, alright. Stuckman mentioned that in his review, and I was like, that can't be the line. No, it was the line. So they moved to that near that house, right next to that house. The boy, and then Jude, the character, the little boy in the film, actually finds the doll buried in the woods. Starts to become friends with the doll. Mind you, the boy hasn't spoken because of the incident, the robbery, and starts to get close to the doll, and then creepy things start to happen. The rules from the first film start coming into play. The mom gets uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. So The Boy 2 is the movie that I assumed The Boy was going to be. In that, unlike The Boy, which really is kind of saved by its third act twist of it not being a possessed doll, just a man in the walls, and that kind of makes it have its own identity. Unlike that first film, this one does not have its own identity whatsoever. This is exactly what I thought the first one was going to be. The doll all of a sudden is possessed. Like, they mention the first one, they use certain elements of the first one, but they also retcon the ever living shit out of the first one to make this one a possessed doll. Because that little motherfucker was not possessed in The Boy. All right, we assumed it was possessed, and homegirl starts kind of going crazy trying to appease the doll, and then you find out, no, this motherfucker living on the walls, and he's moving the doll, and he's taking shit, he's taking food, all that stuff, and dresses and everything. Now all of a sudden, in this one, nah, the doll's actually possessed because you see its fucking eyes move while characters ain't looking all of a sudden, which to the credit of the first one never did that. You assumed it was doing that, but it didn't. They never showed it. But this one, now all of a sudden the doll is moving its eyes. All of a sudden the doll is turning its head. Oh yeah, like and I'm just like, no, okay, all right, Annabelle. um, and then not only did they have the retcon that, in doing what they do with that retcon, they also retcon the kid and the man in the wall story from the original. Like, it still happens, but now its reasoning's a little different. Now all of a sudden this doll has been terrorizing families that live in a house since the 1800s, and instead of just being given to the kid recently or made for the kid recently, you know? Now all of a sudden it's not just a crazy person who killed a little girl and then secluded himself in the walls, driving his parents mad. Now it's literally, oh, here's this doll making you do what it wants you to do. It's like they needed to mix up Annabelle and Sinister. But it's like, all right, if this doll's been making people kill their family since the 1800s, why didn't this doll make Brahms kill his parents? Why did it let the parents grow up all the way? Because they followed the rules? And then there was no parents, there was a maid. It's really? And in doing all of this, it's not like I'm some huge fan of the first one, but in doing all of this, it just made this movie just like every other fucking possessed doll movie. With dumbass characters who make stupid ass decisions that don't make any gosh damn sense. And a mutual problem I have with both films is how uneventful they are. Like, when I really watched the movies, and I was thinking this watching the first one at home, I was like, not much happening in this movie, is it? The mood and the atmosphere, it's a little bit there, but then it's not being used very well. Whatever attempts at jump scares they're trying to do are laughable. You know, whatever. It's like, let's get this movie over so I can get back to my PS4 is what I was thinking. But this one, it's even worse. Because there's almost absolutely no atmosphere in this one. Not even an attempt. The guest house is blandly shot and lit compared to how they lit the house and shot the house in the original film. They don't explore, in my opinion, the relationship between Jude and the doll. And now the doll's name's Brahms. It's not just the name of the guy who's in the walls. Now the doll's name literally is Brahms. Like, what? But anyway, they maybe what could have separated this one is, or made it more interesting, is showing more of the relationship in your face between the kid and the doll instead of just really being mostly from Katie's perspective. Show me some of these conversations. Make them eerie. Something I liked about Paranormal Activity 3 were the scenes between the little Christopher, little version of Christy and the demon. You know, those scenes. Those are like some of my favorite scenes in that film. And maybe this could have been separated by doing that. You know, and then, there's twists later on in the film, establishing Brahms' history that are just lame and feel like they were just taken from other possessed doll movies. It would have been, it would have made more sense to me if if they wanted to make it supernatural without contradicting the first film, maybe they could have done a twist where the man in the walls, Brahms, was dying and did a Chucky and found a way to put his spirit into that doll. So the Brahms that we knew is still an influencing factor into the sequel. And they'd be like, oh, well, that's not original. That's from Chucky. Well, nothing they do is original in this motherfucker. You know? It's a boring, scareless drug. Hour and 26 minutes of nothing. And then once it gets to the third act, it's over. Like, snap of the finger. Bang, it's done. And it's directed by such and such. And it's like, why did I waste my time? This movie was not creepy. You know, people talk about scary, but I like just being, like, just, you know, you creep me out, man. That's good enough. Make me unsettled. Make me not want to be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in right now. But this doesn't even do that. Not even close. These horror movies are terrible so far this year. There's been a couple I like. I personally love The Lodge and Color Out of Space. And Underwater was pretty good. But The Grudge, The Turning, Fantasy Island, this movie, suck! Absolutely, positively suck. And I can't help feeling like this movie felt so soft too, because honestly, the opening, a quote unquote assault that starts the movie, isn't even that bad. Like, it's not good, but considering that it's a film and the trauma that the two main characters, the mom and the boy, feel afterwards, I think it should have been worse, honestly. I was thinking that the entire time. That trauma should have been worse. Like I said, The Boy 2 is what I thought The Boy was going to be, and which was the reason why I didn't watch it for 4 years. And you know, there's no rule to say that a sequel can't necessarily change genres. It's just that you know, especially for like horror and action and stuff like that, it's just you shouldn't have the sequel contradict the original. The Raid 2 being a 2.5 hour mob movie with great martial arts action scenes doesn't change what the Raid was, being trapped in an apartment Die Hard type scenario. It doesn't contradict anything in the Raid. It evolves from the Raid. Aliens being sci-fi action horror instead of Alien, like, which was sci-fi, you know, suspense horror, where is it at type horror, doesn't contradict anything from Alien. It's just an evolution from Alien to Aliens. And same thing with Terminator 2. Terminator 2 being more bombastic with its action does not contradict anything from the smaller, more horror-esque The Terminator. It's an evolution from The Terminator to Terminator 2. And it almost felt like they wanted to do that, but in doing that, they contradicted the original because they completely changed the two aspects of the film. Serial killer trapped in the walls, serial killer genre, which is basically what The Boy was, is not the same type of film as the supernatural horror. So to take one to the other, you have to make big changes, and you have to make those changes work for both the sequel and for the original film. And all it does is fuck up the whole thing. And I am saying this as a person who wasn't even that big of a fan of the first one. But I can respect them for trying to do something a little different near the end. So I can't even imagine. I can't imagine how a person who's actually a fan of the original film feels about this one basically telling the original to suck its dick, it's possessed now. And then not even doing a good job with it. That's the thing. Maybe if it did a great job with the scares and the characters and the mood and the thing, who would give a fuck? But unfortunately, it just does the same old boring shit that every other supernatural possessed doll movie does. Except for the Chuckies. Because Chucky actually has a character. You know? You're not going to see Brahms doll calling somebody a Stupid bitch, a filthy slut. Chucky's in a league of his own. This wants to be Annabelle. And even though the first Annabelle was horrible to me, this movie can't even touch Annabelle Creation or even Annabelle Comes Home. Because at least something happens in those gosh dang movies. Their intentions are clear. Don't make a third one. Just don't.